Have you ever wondered why some relationships thrive effortlessly while others seem doomed to fail from the start? In today's video, we're diving deep into the raw and honest realities about what truly makes relationships tick and sometimes explode. You'll uncover surprising insights into the hidden power of emotional intelligence, the subtle yet irresistible appeal of confidence, and the real reasons behind common relationship struggles you've probably faced yourself. Plus, there's one shocking revelation toward the end that could completely change your perspective on love, trust, and lasting commitment. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and stick around to the very end. You don't want to miss this powerful truth. And if you appreciate real talk on relationship self-growth and life wisdom, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell and join a community committed to becoming our best selves. Across centuries and cultures, human relationships have been a focal point of both philosophical inquiry and day-to-day concern. Whether in the realm of myth literature or contemporary self-help discourse, there is a near-universal drive to decode the intricate dynamics between men and women. In particular, men often grapple with questions regarding how to best understand the behavior, preferences, and emotional needs of their female counterparts. As societies progress and norms shift, many previously accepted generalizations undergo scrutiny, yet certain recurring themes suggest there are deep-rooted patterns at play, influenced by everything from evolutionary biology to cultural conditioning. One philosophical lens that frequently resurfaces in discussions around self-improvement and interpersonal relationships is Stoicism, originating from ancient Greek and Roman thought. The central tenets of Stoicism underscore emotional regulation, personal virtue, and the pursuit of wisdom over external accolades. Stoicism in many respects has re-emerged in modern times, partly because it offers a grounded way to handle adversity and emotional turbulence issues that inevitably arise in any close relationship. Rather than encourage a denial of one's emotions, Stoicism advocates for placing them in a reasoned context, acknowledging their presence without allowing them to dictate every action or reaction. When applied to romantic or intergender relationships, it provides useful guideposts on how to remain stable, compassionate, and focused on what truly matters in a partner. In the following sections, we will explore 9 insights, sometimes referred to as harsh realities, about how women may perceive and respond to men's behaviors. The term harsh need not be taken as accusatory. Rather, it highlights truths that can initially feel uncomfortable, especially if men have been conditioned by overly simplistic fairy tale narratives. These truths do not cast women in a negative light. Instead, they shed light on patterns that, if properly understood, can enhance empathy, respect, and mutual benefit. Each insight aligns in some way with the Stoic idea of recognizing and adapting to life's natural order. Instead of resisting these truths, men are encouraged to incorporate them into their personal growth journey, cultivating virtues like resilience, self-awareness, and emotional steadiness. Moreover, by examining these realities, we aim to dispel certain myths that can lead to resentment or confusion. For instance, a man who believes that unrestrained emotional expression is the only path to authenticity might be stunned to find that many women do not necessarily seek raw vulnerability at all times. Likewise, a man who complains about women allegedly wanting only rich or powerful partners may be missing the broader and more nuanced concept of seeking security and emotional stability. Recognizing the difference between superficial stereotypes and deeper biological or psychological drivers opens up healthier avenues of conversation and partnership. In short, the Stoic framework, combined with a nuanced understanding of these 9 realities, offers an approach that can foster not only stronger, more balanced relationships, but also personal evolution on both sides. To fully appreciate how these 9 realities apply in modern relationships, it is helpful to consider the historical and philosophical contexts that have shaped them. Historically, men and women often faced distinct social roles. Men were typically expected to provide financially or secure resources, while women often specialized in caregiving, household management, and child-rearing. Over time, as societies grew more complex and interdependent, the lines between these roles started to blur. The Industrial Revolution, for example, drew women into factories, and the subsequent waves of feminist movements empowered them to seek education careers and agency in broader society. Despite these advancements, certain deeply ingrained inclinations remain. From an evolutionary psychology standpoint, the female preference for partners who exhibit strength or ambition was once crucial for survival. Someone who could protect or gather more resources had a higher chance of ensuring the well-being of offspring. Thus, even though contemporary women can and do rely on themselves, economically echoes of these primal preferences can persist. This is not to say that every woman blindly follows these tendencies. Cultural variation, personal choice, and individual values play significant roles. Yet the notion that many women still admire men who show resilience, leadership, or problem-solving capacity cannot be dismissed as mere stereotype. In this landscape, Stoicism enters as a toolkit for men seeking to navigate shifting expectations without succumbing to cynicism or confusion. Where modern culture offers conflicting messages, encouraging men to be both sensitive caretakers and unyielding pillars of strength, Stoicism's balanced perspective helps cut through the noise. For instance, Stoic philosophy delineates between what is within our control, our attitudes, responses, and personal development, and what is beyond our control, the reactions of others, random life events, or broader societal norms. By concentrating on self-improvement, emotional composure, and ethical consistency, Stoic-minded men can find a stable ground from which to engage with a partner's preferences and behaviors. From a societal standpoint, we also see that many women's inclinations toward men who display competence, resourcefulness, or stability are not necessarily about superficial materialism. It is often about the emotional and psychological sense of security such traits can provide. Put differently, a man who consistently shows he can address challenges responsibly, whether it is paying the bills on time or responding calmly in stressful circumstances, naturally instills a sense of trust. This is not a condemnation of men who struggle or experience setbacks. Rather, it underscores that how a man responds to those setbacks can significantly shape his attractiveness and the longevity of his relationships. By recognizing these layers, historical roles, evolutionary instincts, cultural norms, and Stoic perspectives, one gains a far more holistic grasp of why these 9 realities persist. Rather than viewing them as manipulative tactics or as negative generalizations about women, men can treat these insights as catalysts for growth. The final outcome is not a method for tricking women into liking or respecting men. Rather, it is a pathway to deeper reciprocity and genuine connection based on shared understanding, mutual respect, and authenticity. One of the earliest realizations many men encounter is that women generally prefer emotional resilience over unfiltered vulnerability. This does not mean women despise emotion. In fact, countless women value a partner's ability to share feelings and be transparent. However, in both primal and contemporary contexts, a man who is perpetually overwhelmed by challenges or who crumbles at every setback can inadvertently undermine the sense of stability or security his partner seeks. Even when a woman prides herself on being empathetic, a consistent display of helplessness from a partner can become draining over time. Here is where Stoicism and its emphasis on balanced emotional regulation proves especially relevant. Rather than never showing emotions, Stoic practice encourages the discernment of when and how to express them. It also promotes the building of an inner fortress, an ability to maintain composure in the face of adversity. We might consider the metaphor of a tree bending in the wind. It yields enough so it does not snap, yet its roots remain firmly planted. Similarly, a man can bend in the face of life's storms, acknowledging stress or fear, but also stand grounded in the knowledge that he has the capacity to work through problems. Historically, this preference for strength ties back to survival. If a man was easily incapacitated by fear, a family might lose essential shelter, nourishment, or protection. Although the modern world no longer requires constant vigilance against predators, that subconscious association between reliable strength and male desirability often remains. Women looking for long-term partners subconsciously and sometimes consciously evaluate a man's ability to weather crises, be they financial hardships, emotional difficulties, or social conflicts, without succumbing to paralysis. It is equally crucial to avoid oversimplifications. Emotional strength does not mean robotic detachment or refusal to seek help. On the contrary, showing vulnerability judiciously can enhance intimacy, demonstrating that a man trusts his partner enough to share his burdens. Problems arise if vulnerability morphs into chronic defeatism, such as repeated breakdowns without making tangible steps to address underlying issues. Over time, that pattern can erode the sense of security in the relationship, prompting a woman to question whether her partner can truly be a reliable anchor. Men often express confusion on this point, interpreting any caution against excessive vulnerability as women only want macho men. Yet the real nuance lies in proportionality and context. By all means, share concerns and insecurities, but do so while showcasing that you are committed to problem-solving and self-improvement. This synergy of openness and strength is typically well received, as it affirms that you are not merely offloading emotional baggage, but also taking active steps to lighten the load. Under a Stoic framework, you cultivate resilience by focusing on growth and self-discipline, ensuring that any moments of vulnerability become opportunities for closeness rather than signals of perpetual dependence. Hypergamy refers to the inclination often discussed in evolutionary psychology where a woman seeks a partner of equal or higher social, economic, or intellectual status. While critics sometimes reduce hypergamy to accusations of gold digging, the truth is far more layered. At its core, hypergamy can be understood as a pursuit of security and positive prospects rather than blind materialism. It speaks to a deeply embedded survival impulse. Selecting a partner who can offer a more stable environment can increase the odds of successfully raising offspring. In a more contemporary context, many women do not solely rely on men for financial stability. Still, the underlying preference for a man who demonstrates competence, ambition, or potential often persists. This does not necessarily equate to chasing wealth, but rather is a recognition that reliability and resourcefulness matter greatly in a world rife with uncertainties. Men should see hypergamy not as an attack on their worth if they are not high earners, but rather as a motivator to cultivate skills, emotional stability, and a commitment to personal growth. Indeed, many women value a man's drive, moral compass, and emotional intelligence more than an already fat bank account. From the Stoic point of view, complaining about hypergamy accomplishes little. Men cannot force women to abandon preferences that in many cases are rooted in biology and shaped by societal constructs. What they can do is direct energy toward self-improvement in all domains: career, emotional well-being, and physical health. By doing so, they embrace the Stoic principle of focusing on what is within their control. This pivot from resentment to proactive self-betterment can transform what might seem like a hurdle into a catalyst for personal evolution. Additionally, hypergamy does not exempt women from investing in their own paths to success and self-sufficiency. Modern relationships often revolve around mutual support, where both partners bring complementary strengths. The difference is that women, when seeking a long-term partner, may be particularly attuned to signs of ambition, leadership, or problem-solving ability. In practice, men demonstrating these traits can find that they establish deeper trust more quickly. On the flip side, an individual who has potential but consistently exhibits laziness or defeatism may struggle to gain that same level of trust. An important caveat is that hypergamy is not absolute for every woman. Cultural background, personal aspirations, and individual character all shape how strictly someone adheres to these tendencies. A woman with a strong entrepreneurial spirit, for instance, might not place equal weight on financial differences if her partner is supportive, kind, and shares her core values. Nonetheless, hypergamy as a general pattern persists enough to be relevant. Understanding it rather than denying or vilifying it ultimately empowers men to respond with greater empathy and strategic growth. A commonly observed phenomenon is the idea that women test men sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly, to gauge their reliability, resilience, and emotional steadiness. This testing might involve challenging a man's opinions, observing how he handles disagreements, or noting whether he can keep his cool when under stress. While some men find it frustrating or manipulative, it can be more accurately perceived as part of a subconscious screening process. From a historical lens, such screening was vital, choosing a partner who could remain calm and resourceful in times of scarcity or conflict was literally a matter of survival. In modern relationships, these tests are rarely as dramatic as fending off predators or scouting scarce resources. Yet the concept remains that a woman might initiate small conflicts or pose tough questions to see whether her partner reacts with undue anger, defensiveness, or insecurity. Another form of testing is seeking clarity on future goals. She may ask pointed questions about his career, objectives, life philosophy, or some commitment level. While these can be uncomfortable, they serve a constructive purpose. They reveal if the man has a solid sense of direction, emotional maturity, and readiness for genuine partnership. From a Stoic perspective, these tests should be neither feared nor resented. They are opportunities to demonstrate composure, authenticity, and clarity of purpose. Instead of getting defensive, "Why are you constantly questioning me?" A Stoic-minded individual might respond calmly, reflecting on the logic behind his decisions and reaffirming his intentions. This approach transforms potential flashpoints into bonding moments. When a woman sees that her partner can face her inquisitions calmly and transparently, she gains confidence in his emotional and mental fortitude. However, there is a balancing act. Not all tests are fair or healthy. Some individuals, regardless of gender, might engage in toxic forms of testing that border on manipulation, insecurity-driven jealousy, or game-playing. Men who notice such patterns might need to employ firm boundaries or open, honest communication to clarify acceptable behavior. If the testing escalates into consistent disrespect, it ceases to be a normal relational checkpoint and becomes a red flag. Distinguishing between constructive testing spurred by a desire for reassurance and clarity and destructive behavior stemming from immaturity or malice is essential. By and large, responding to constructive tests with calm, self-assured energy can deepen trust and reduce future conflicts. The key is consistency. Passing one test with flying colors, only to unravel the next time things get heated, will still plant seeds of doubt. Over time, as a man repeatedly shows the capacity to handle adversity, remain respectful, and stay true to his commitments, these tests often diminish, replaced by a stable foundation of mutual respect. In sum, the phenomenon of testing is less about petty power struggles and more about establishing a security baseline, a fundamental aspect of many relationships. Despite societal advancements, security remains a formidable component in many women's relationship calculus. This security is multifaceted. Financial stability is one facet, but so is emotional safety, respect, and the assurance that her partner will stand by her through life's ups and downs. For many men, the moment they hear security, they translate it to mean substantial financial assets, like a hefty bank account or an impressive job title. While economic stability can be important, it is only part of the broader tapestry that makes someone a reliable partner. Emotional security often ranks just as high, if not higher, for some women. Picture a scenario where a man makes a comfortable living, but has repeated emotional outbursts, unpredictable mood swings, or an inability to communicate. Such a situation may undermine a woman's sense that she can be fully open or vulnerable with him. Alternatively, a man of more modest means who is emotionally attentive and proactive about managing stress might provide a sense of calm that is invaluable. In truth, both emotional steadiness and practical reliability feed into the overarching sense of security. This ties back to Stoicism, which advocates that true peace of mind and reliability come from consistent ethical conduct, moderation, and self-awareness. A Stoic man tends to avoid extremes. He is neither so stoic that he becomes emotionally aloof, nor so reactive that he lashes out unpredictably. This balanced approach fosters trust in his partner, who sees that he can handle conflict or disappointment without spiraling. It is not about being infallible, but about correcting course quickly and responsibly when mistakes do occur. Being a secure presence also includes showing up in tangible ways. For instance, if a partner expresses distress over a personal problem, the Stoic approach is to listen attentively, validate her feelings, and then offer reasoned support. This might mean brainstorming solutions, providing reassurance, or simply being present without judgment. When practiced consistently, such behavior cements the idea that the relationship is a safe harbor. Over time, this sense of safety can deepen intimacy as both parties feel empowered to share their genuine selves without fear of ridicule or betrayal. Of course, fostering security is a two-way street. Women, too, shoulder responsibilities to contribute emotional support and reliability. Nevertheless, cultural narratives and evolutionary underpinnings often place a spotlight on the man's role in establishing a stable environment. Men who embrace this reality without bitterness or insecurity find that they grow not only as partners, but also as individuals. By viewing this facet of female desire as an invitation to enhance one's own emotional fortitude and responsibility, men transform what might initially feel like a burden into a profound source of personal strength and relational fulfillment. Having introduced the foundational ideas ranging from the preference for resilience to the subtle workings of hypergamy and the importance of security, we are setting the stage for a more in-depth look at how men can apply this knowledge practically. In the next part, we will shift focus to other realities that illuminate further facets of male-female interactions, including why superficial niceness often fails to spark genuine respect, and how clear boundaries can make or break a partnership. Additionally, we will delve into the potent attraction many women feel for men who are seen as winners, unpack the nuances of communication styles, and emphasize the transformative power of emotional intelligence. By weaving these elements together, a fuller picture emerges of the kind of balanced, self-aware masculinity that fosters deep connection rather than mere performative compliance. Stoicism remains a recurring theme, acting as a guiding principle for engaging with these insights productively. No matter how one chooses to implement these realities, an overarching message resonates: men who seek to understand women's perspectives and adapt in ways that retain their integrity often discover deeper respect, admiration, and emotional resonance from their partners. In Part 2, we will specifically tackle why nice guys sometimes finish last and how authentic confidence differs from mere politeness. The function of respect and firm boundaries in cultivating a loving, mutually respectful environment. The allure of success and achievement and why it is more complex than material wealth. Communication disparities between men and women and how bridging that gap can revolutionize emotional intimacy. The vital role of emotional intelligence in cementing trust and building meaningful connections. Armed with this roadmap, we can proceed with clarity. Whether one is newly exploring these concepts or revisiting them after personal trials, the aim is to harness each harsh reality as a stepping stone toward richer, more robust relationships, never as an excuse for cynicism or manipulation. Let us now turn our attention to Part 2, where these concepts unfold in greater detail, shedding further light on the path to balanced and fulfilling partnerships. A ubiquitous phrase in popular culture says, "Nice guys finish last." Interpreted literally, it can sound like an indictment against kindness, suggesting that polite or thoughtful men are doomed to romantic obscurity. Yet the deeper truth lies in discerning between performative niceness and genuine kindness anchored in self-respect. Many so-called nice guys operate under a covert contract. They expect that by consistently agreeing flattering or avoiding confrontation, they are entitled to affection, approval, or romantic success. When these unspoken expectations go unmet, bitterness and resentment often follow. From a woman's perspective, this dynamic can feel manipulative. She may detect that the man's seemingly endless sweetness is a front for deeper insecurities, a strategy to gain emotional leverage. Moreover, a man who is excessively agreeable and conflict-averse might inadvertently signal that he lacks genuine conviction or self-assuredness. Over time, such behavior can be perceived as lacking authenticity because true empathy requires not just pleasing others, but also standing firm when values or self-worth are at stake. Stoicism offers a robust framework for avoiding the pitfalls of performative niceness. By emphasizing virtue and personal integrity, Stoics remind us that genuine kindness emerges from moral conviction, not from a desire to extract rewards. In practical terms, a Stoic-minded man might help a colleague, friend, or partner simply because it aligns with his ethical beliefs and sense of communal responsibility, not because he anticipates reciprocation. While he remains considerate, he also maintains boundaries and expresses his viewpoints honestly. This balanced approach weaves kindness and self-confidence into a cohesive whole, making such men more trustworthy and genuinely appealing as partners. In relationships, part of transcending the nice guy label is learning to say no when necessary. Counterintuitive, though it may seem, occasional disagreement or refusal can in fact foster more respect than blind acquiescence. For example, if a partner makes unreasonable demands or acts disrespectfully, consistently yielding to avoid conflict can erode one's own dignity and breed quiet resentment. Instead, calmly articulating why a particular request crosses a boundary might initially trigger discomfort, but it ultimately fosters mutual understanding and respect. A woman who sees her partner exhibit principled assertiveness can feel more confident that he genuinely means yes when he does agree. It is also important to recognize that kindness is not synonymous with weakness. Strong moral fiber can coexist with empathy, just as one can be both decisive and compassionate. When men internalize this understanding, they often find that they can form deeper bonds that rest on honesty rather than hidden transactional expectations. Women, for their part, often sense that a man's refusal to always play nice can be a sign he respects himself, and by extension, can more authentically respect her as well. Ultimately, the nice guy dilemma highlights the necessity for men to merge genuine altruism with unwavering self-worth, a fusion that resonates far beyond short-lived romantic gains and fosters a stable foundation for authentic intimacy. Building a healthy relationship demands mutual respect, yet the process of setting and maintaining boundaries remains one of the most challenging aspects for many men. Cultural scripts often mislead men into believing they should be eternally accommodating, conflating passivity with kindness. Over time, this approach risks normalizing disrespect, small acts of condescension or negligence that accumulate, chipping away at self-esteem and eroding intimacy. Men who do not assert their boundaries early on may struggle to reclaim them later as both partners adapt to an imbalanced dynamic. Crucially, boundaries are not about issuing ultimatums or dominating a partner. Rather, they define personal comfort zones and clarify what constitutes acceptable behavior. These can be emotional boundaries, for example, refusing to tolerate repeated insults, or making it clear that shouting is not an acceptable conflict resolution tactic. They can also be practical, like allocating personal time for hobbies or requiring open communication about financial decisions. Enforcing such boundaries is an act of self-respect, and it communicates to one partner that shared respect is a prerequisite for closeness. From a Stoic vantage point, boundaries align with the principle of not allowing external actions to disrupt one's internal sense of virtue and tranquility. If a partner repeatedly crosses a line, say mocking or belittling an individual trained in Stoic self-awareness, will calmly but firmly address the issue. There is no need for hostility or emotional outbursts. Simply articulate that the behavior is unacceptable and outline the consequences if it continues. At first, this might feel uncomfortable to men who equate confrontation with conflict, but done correctly, boundary setting actually prevents more serious conflicts down the line. Ironically, many women report feeling more secure and trusting when they know their partner is willing to stand up for himself. A man who refuses to tolerate consistent disrespect demonstrates self-worth, which can, in turn, bolster a woman's respect for him. By contrast, if a man continually absorbs verbal jabs or dismissals under the guise of being understanding, the woman might internalize that he lacks personal pride. Over time, this can diminish her respect and erode the relationship's foundation. It is worth noting that boundaries extend in both directions. Just as a man is entitled to set and defend his lines, so too must he honor his partners. Reciprocity lies at the heart of all healthy dynamics. If both parties communicate their non-negotiables early and adhere to them consistently, misunderstandings reduce and genuine affection can flourish in an environment of mutual integrity. Rather than stifling closeness, boundaries ensure that each individual feels safe. Safe to be authentic, safe from emotional harm, and safe to explore deeper levels of commitment and emotional intimacy. Hence, boundaries are less about building walls and more about constructing a stable framework within which love and respect can genuinely thrive. Another reality that can appear harsh to some men is the intriguing appeal of success ambition or victory. Whether it manifests as praise for a man who thrives in his career, admiration for someone deeply dedicated to a creative pursuit, or respect for an individual achieving life goals, there is an undeniable gravitational pull that such qualities can exert. Some men reduce this to the notion that women only want the rich guys or those with influential status. However, a more nuanced perspective reveals that the core attraction often lies in witnessing someone turn determination into tangible results. It is instructive to recognize that drive and ambition do not necessarily equate to vast wealth. A man might dedicate himself to mastering a musical instrument, volunteering to coordinate community programs, or improving a technical skill set. These efforts reflect commitment, discipline, and a willingness to strive for excellence, qualities that inspire confidence in partners. Historically, success in protecting or provisioning for one's family signaled that a man was capable and dependable. Though times have changed, an undercurrent of that primal admiration for competence and capability remains. From the Stoic viewpoint, the pursuit of excellence, known to ancient Stoics as arete, represents a moral and practical commitment to using one's gifts productively. This is not about flaunting achievements to earn validation. Instead, the Stoic lens focuses on bettering oneself for the sake of fulfilling personal potential and contributing to society. When men embrace this ethic, their accomplishments reflect genuine growth rather than mere ego gratification. Interestingly, that authenticity amplifies their attractiveness. A woman who sees her partner's passion for purposeful endeavors might feel a vicarious sense of excitement and inspiration, recognizing that his ambition is fueled by core values rather than vanity. In a relationship context, the synergy between ambition and emotional support can be powerful. A man fueled by genuine drive often invites his partner to dream along with him, setting shared goals or forging a collective vision of the future. On the flip side, a partner's encouragement can bolster that drive, forming a cycle of motivation, achievement, and mutual uplift. Viewed in this way, success becomes more than a trophy or a status symbol. It becomes a shared endeavor that galvanizes both parties toward growth. Still, it is essential to underline that achieving external success without cultivating emotional intelligence or empathy can lead to hollow relationships. A man so focused on winning that he neglects emotional connection or moral principles might initially impress someone, but often fails to sustain deeper intimacy. For this reason, the balanced Stoic approach stresses excellence tempered by virtue ambition, guided by ethical and emotional awareness. This alignment allows men to harness the potential inherent in ambition while avoiding the pitfalls of arrogance, obsessive workaholism, or neglect of personal relationships. One of the most commonly cited sources of conflict or misunderstanding between men and women is their often contrasting communication styles. Stereotypically, men tend to be more solution-oriented and direct, seeking to identify a problem and then propose a fix. Women, on the other hand, may be more inclined toward expressive communication, focusing on emotional resonance and shared understanding before moving to resolutions. These contrasts can lead to exasperation on both sides. Men might feel that their practical advice is dismissed, while women might feel that their emotional reality is being overlooked. In many scenarios, a woman presenting a problem is not necessarily asking for a step-by-step solution. Instead, she seeks emotional validation or a compassionate ear. Meanwhile, men trained to see issues as tasks to be completed can unknowingly create distance by jumping into fix-it mode without first acknowledging her feelings. This cycle can produce frustration for both partners. "Why won't he just listen to me?" clashes with, "Why won't she take my advice?" Stoicism can guide men to approach communication with greater emotional intelligence. A critical Stoic practice is the pause, the conscious decision to withhold immediate judgment or reaction. When a partner shares her frustrations, a Stoic-minded individual might first reflect on her emotional state. Is she venting because she feels overwhelmed or unheard? Would validating her perspective. "I hear you, and that sounds genuinely difficult." Help her feel understood before brainstorming solutions. This measured response shows empathy without forsaking clarity or problem-solving abilities. Learning to actively listen is another tool that can bridge these communication gaps. Active listening means not just waiting for one's turn to speak, but genuinely absorbing what the other person is saying and reflecting it back. For example, paraphrasing her concerns. "So you're feeling stressed because your boss keeps assigning extra tasks." Without acknowledging your existing workload demonstrates that you grasp the nuances of her situation. This simple step can diffuse tension as she no longer feels the need to fight for validation. None of this implies that men must abandon their natural inclination to solve problems. Instead, they can integrate empathy into their repertoire. After emotional acknowledgement, if she seems open to suggestions, gently offering potential solutions can indeed be beneficial. It is the sequence that matters: emotional resonance. First, problem-solving; second. Over time, repeated practice of this balanced communication style often leads to deeper intimacy. Each partner feels their natural preferences. Be it emotional expression or direct solutions are respected and integrated rather than dismissed or shoehorned into a one-size-fits-all model of interaction. While ambition, strength, and clear boundaries underpin much of what many women find appealing, the capacity for emotional intelligence, EI, can be the decisive factor that either cements or dismantles a relationship over time. Emotional intelligence at its core involves understanding one's own emotions and empathizing with others. For a relationship to flourish, both partners must feel that their emotional realities are being witnessed and honored, not just tolerated. Men who develop robust EI often find that it enhances not only their personal relationships, but also friendships, family ties, and professional environments. A man with high EI is apt to recognize emotional cues ranging from subtle changes in tone to body language and respond in a manner that feels supportive rather than dismissive. This does not entail tiptoeing around a partner's emotions or becoming subservient to her every whim. Instead, it involves calibrating responses to de-escalate tension, show genuine concern, and collaborate toward constructive solutions when challenges arise. Such calibration aligns seamlessly with Stoicism, which encourages self-awareness and the regulation of impulsive reactions. One hallmark of emotional intelligence is self-reflection. Instead of reacting defensively when a conflict emerges, a Stoic-minded individual steps back to ask, "What can I learn from this? Did my words or tone contribute to the tension? Is there a more beneficial way to respond?" This introspection differentiates a man who is locked in an endless cycle of blame and defensiveness from one who grows with every interpersonal hurdle. Over time, a pattern of conscious reflection builds trust. His partner sees that he is not only capable of acknowledging mistakes, but also committed to making lasting improvements. Moreover, EI fosters an environment in which deeper conversations can occur. When a couple feels safe exchanging emotions without fear of ridicule or aggression, they can tackle more sensitive topics, past traumas, ambitions, insecurities, or even future plans involving children or finances. With each honest exchange, the emotional intimacy of the partnership grows. Women frequently mention how crucial it is to feel that their partner is truly present, not just physically, but emotionally, a sentiment that underscores the importance of EI in forging lasting bonds. Finally, emotional intelligence does not nullify the other realities discussed. Instead, it acts as a binding agent, threading together the appeal of strength, ambition, and reliable boundaries into a cohesive relational presence. A man who couples emotional intelligence with stoic resilience stands out. He can weather crises without suppressing empathy and remain empathetic without losing a sense of self. Indeed, that balanced combination might be one of the greatest assets any individual can bring to a partnership, reflecting both personal evolution and an earnest commitment to collective well-being. When considered in isolation, each reality might feel like an isolated insight, useful but not necessarily transformative. However, the real power emerges when these perspectives interlock. A man who recognizes why women might prefer resilience over perpetual vulnerability can adjust his communication style. In turn, understanding hypergamy motivates him to refine his ambitions or cultivate new skills, not merely for show, but as part of a broader commitment to self-improvement. Simultaneously, he learns to navigate tests, calmly uses boundaries to maintain mutual respect, and remains conscious of how emotional intelligence cements trust. The cumulative effect is a holistic transformation. Rather than feeling the need to memorize lines or follow manipulative techniques, men embody the principles that naturally attract respect and affection. They become men of purpose, resilience, and compassion, qualities that resonate far beyond romantic relationships, influencing friendships, family ties, and professional networks. Women encountering such men often respond with relief and admiration, finding in them a rare blend of strength and empathy. This also paves the way for healthier conflict resolution. In any long-term relationship, conflicts are unavoidable, but a man who has internalized these realities will likely refrain from personal attacks or spirals of blame. Instead, he might state his points firmly, yet calmly acknowledge his partner's feelings and work collaboratively toward solutions. Over time, this approach fosters a deeply rooted sense of security. In both partners, they realize that no matter what arises, they can navigate challenges without tearing each other down. Moreover, these insights help men avoid potential pitfalls like resentment and bitterness. For instance, if one resents women for their preference for strong, competent men, that resentment can poison interactions. Recognizing that such preferences are not personal attacks, but rather reflections of long-standing patterns of security-seeking can shift a man's mindset from adversarial to understanding. Similarly, once he sees that emotional intelligence is not an optional add-on, but rather a core relational skill, he stops belittling emotional conversations and starts actively engaging in them. Step by step, these transformations accumulate, changing not just how a man interacts with women, but how he navigates his own inner world. Ultimately, harnessing these 9 insights yields a relational approach grounded in authenticity rather than performance. Men learn to show genuine kindness, guided by Stoic virtue and self-respect. They combine ambition with empathy, boundaries with compassion, and resilience with understanding. Far from being a manipulative playbook, this integrated outlook cultivates reciprocal respect, deeper emotional connection, and an environment in which both partners can grow. The changes manifest not as forced illusions, but as natural evolutions toward maturity and integrity. With these additional insights covering the spectrum from nice guy pitfalls to emotional intelligence, the scaffolding around the 9 realities grows more comprehensive. By now, a clear picture emerges of how men can interpret and integrate these realities in their daily lives, adopting Stoic composure to manage tests, blending ambition with authentic empathy, and standing firm on boundaries without forsaking kindness. We see how focusing on self-improvement, rather than resenting or denying female preferences, leads to more secure, fulfilling bonds. In Part 3, we will bring these strands together, highlighting best practices and cautioning against extremes. It is one thing to intellectually grasp why women appreciate strong yet emotionally intelligent men, but quite another to embody these qualities consistently. We will discuss potential roadblocks, including how modern cultural shifts and evolving gender norms might influence the application of these insights. We will also revisit the overarching role of Stoicism as a unifying philosophy that can keep men grounded, ethical, and open-hearted, even in the face of life's uncertainties. By the end of the final section, the hope is that each man or reader of any gender will feel equipped with a well-rounded understanding of these 9 realities and how they can be harnessed for personal and relational enrichment. The journey does not end with mere knowledge. It continues through conscious practice, reflection, and a willingness to adapt. Embracing these concepts, one can move beyond outdated stereotypes, forging relationships that stand the test of time through mutual respect, emotional resonance, and unwavering integrity. Having traversed the key facets of the 9 realities that shape male-female interactions, the logical next step is implementation. Integrating these insights requires more than passive awareness. It involves deliberate choices, self-examination, and the adaptability to refine behaviors over time. While the specifics will vary from one individual to another, a core principle stands out: men who lean into growth-oriented mindsets fare better than those who adopt rigid or resentful stances. This mindset acknowledges that personal development, emotional, ethical, and practical, is an ongoing journey enriched by lessons gleaned from each triumph or stumbling block. To begin, men might prioritize emotional intelligence as the linchpin that ties everything together. By dedicating time to self-reflection through journaling, meditation, or simply setting aside a few moments each day to assess internal states, one gains insight into the triggers that cause defensive or anxious reactions. Simultaneously practicing empathy in conversations, whether by paraphrasing a partner's concerns or validating her feelings, nurtures a sense of safety and trust. The shift may feel awkward initially, particularly if a man has been socialized to prioritize problem-solving over emotional attunement. Nevertheless, consistent application can rewire old habits, gradually making empathetic engagement more intuitive. At the same time, the emphasis on strength over weakness invites men to adopt strategies that bolster resilience. This might involve focusing on career goals, health, or mental fortitude, ensuring that each new challenge is met with proactive, solution-oriented thinking. For instance, if a man faces a financial setback instead of lamenting external circumstances, he might adopt a Stoic approach, evaluating his spending habits, researching additional income streams, and formulating a clear plan. As he implements this plan, he projects resourcefulness and composure qualities that strongly resonate with a partner's desire for reliability and steadiness. Another critical integration point involves recognizing hypergamy not as an indictment of male worth, but as a reflection of human nature that can inspire constructive action. Rather than blaming women for caring about social and economic stability, men can seize the chance to refine their skill sets, explore meaningful career paths, or even undertake entrepreneurial projects. Authentic ambition driven by personal passion rather than sheer ego fosters both self-fulfillment and relational security. Adding emotional intelligence into this equation ensures that ambition does not devolve into neglect. There is room for both professional achievement and emotional closeness. Lastly, consistently enforcing healthy boundaries forms a practical safeguard against relationship toxicity. When a man calmly articulates a boundary, be it about how he wishes to be spoken to or the personal time he needs, he reinforces the idea that respect must be mutual. This fosters an environment where deeper conversations and genuine emotional intimacy can flourish. Together, these approaches reflect a dynamic interplay of Stoic principles, emotional intelligence, and awareness of evolutionary or cultural patterns. Once men internalize that these realities do not exist to limit them, but to broaden their horizons, they can more fully step into robust, meaningful partnerships. While the potential rewards for applying these 9 insights are substantial, certain pitfalls can derail progress if left unchecked. The first, and perhaps most insidious, is overcompensation when men hear that women prefer emotional resilience. They might swing to the opposite extreme and become emotionally inaccessible. This approach not only misrepresents true Stoic principles, but also stifles the genuine emotional exchange that deepens intimacy. In practice, healthy resilience incorporates emotional expression at the right times, ensuring that a man remains human, approachable, and supportive. A second pitfall is misinterpreting hypergamy as a universal rule that overshadows all other relationship dynamics. While many women do appreciate ambition and capability, not all prioritize these factors equally, and strong emotional bonds can outweigh purely financial or status-driven concerns. Men who reduce relationships to economic games risk becoming cynical and distrustful, undermining genuine connections. The Stoic path counters this inclination by emphasizing moral virtues, reminding men that ethical conduct, kindness, and empathy are powerful attractions in their own right. The third major hazard involves boundary enforcement turning into a power play. Occasionally, a man might relish setting boundaries so thoroughly that he veers into controlling or manipulative behavior, determining every aspect of the relationship in the name of respect. True boundaries protect personal dignity, without trampling on someone else's autonomy. By maintaining open dialogues and ensuring reciprocity, men can avoid crossing the line into coercive territory. Stoicism advocates for balance. There is a world of difference between calm self-assertion and authoritarian edicts. A fourth concern is failing to adapt as cultural and personal circumstances evolve. In an increasingly egalitarian world, many women have their own ambitions, resources, and emotional frameworks. Clinging to rigid old-school perceptions of gender roles can backfire, especially if a woman values independence and collaborative support. Embracing Stoic adaptability means adjusting strategies when evidence shows a need. For instance, if a man realizes that his partner is primarily seeking emotional closeness during a particularly stressful life event, he might temporarily scale back professional commitments to be more present, confident that his Stoic discipline will allow him to resume his ambitions with focus once stability returns. Finally, superficial application of these realities can yield poor results. If a man tries to pass tests or feign emotional intelligence merely to gain approval, cracks will quickly emerge. Authentic transformation requires ongoing self-inquiry, a willingness to confront personal shortcomings and consistent practice, even when no one is watching. Over time, the cumulative effect of these efforts becomes evident genuine confidence, trustworthy character, and enduring emotional security, which in turn fosters a deeper bond with a partner who appreciates these qualities far beyond mere surface gestures. At this juncture, it is worth revisiting Stoicism to clarify its modern application. Ancient Stoics like Seneca Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius espoused tenets that might appear austere by today's standards. They often advocated for minimizing external attachments and focusing on virtue as the highest good. Yet the contemporary interpretation of Stoicism, particularly in the realm of personal development, tends to accentuate emotional regulation, moral integrity, and the acceptance of life's unavoidable realities, including interpersonal complexities. In the context of male-female relationships, Stoic principles encourage men to differentiate between what they can control, their responses, efforts at self-improvement, ethical behavior, and what they cannot, someone else's desires, changing social norms, or random life events. This distinction acts as a mental shield against undue frustration. For example, if a man experiences heartbreak rather than spiraling into bitterness about how all women want X or Y, he might reflect on what lessons can be gleaned from the experience. Was his communication style lacking empathy? Did he neglect to set necessary boundaries? Or was the relationship simply incompatible due to factors he could not alter? By focusing on personal growth, he avoids the trap of external blame, which rarely leads to constructive outcomes. Additionally, Stoic teachings align well with the quest for emotional intelligence. By being mindful of one's internal dialogues and regulating immediate impulses, men become better attuned to how their actions affect partners. This heightened awareness can also reduce the frequency of petty arguments as they learn to let go of minor irritations or to address them calmly rather than snapping in anger. In so doing, they create a relational climate of measured, respectful communication, which many partners, irrespective of gender, find appealing and reassuring. Moreover, contemporary Stoicism as applied here does not demand that a man relinquish passion or personal ambition. Rather, it encourages moderation and ethical consistency in pursuing those goals. Engaging wholeheartedly in a career, a creative passion, or a philanthropic project is not incompatible with Stoic values, so long as it does not consume one's moral compass or disregard the emotional well-being of loved ones. Indeed, the synergy of Stoic discipline with heartfelt ambition can be particularly potent, creating men who are not only high achievers, but also grounded in empathy and virtue. Thus, the Stoic framework in modern dating and long-term relationships underscores emotional maturity, self-control, and an acceptance of certain gender-specific or culturally influenced preferences without descending into blame or resentment. It offers a philosophical anchor that helps men remain steadfast in self-improvement, even as the external world shifts. In the end, this balanced approach promotes relationships that are more resilient, respectful, and deeply fulfilling for both partners. No discussion of broad realities about women would be complete without addressing potential counter-arguments. Critics may point out that not all women adhere to these patterns. Hypergamy, for instance, is hardly universal, and some women might prioritize emotional connection above all else. Others argue that focusing on male-female differences risks reinforcing stereotypes that can stifle the growth of more egalitarian relationships. These concerns are valid and highlight the importance of individual variance in any relationship dynamic. Indeed, humans are far too complex to be reduced to a single script, cultural background. Personal experiences, education, and temperament can drastically shape a woman's preferences. While many women do value ambition, financial stability, or emotional resilience, there are certainly those who prefer slower-paced lifestyles, communal living, or artistic pursuits that do not necessarily align with mainstream notions of success. Moreover, generational differences can drastically shift the conversation. Younger women who grew up in digital globalized environments might prize values different from those who came of age decades earlier. The guiding principle, therefore, is to use these 9 realities not as universal laws, but as helpful signposts. Men benefit from acknowledging these patterns while remaining open to the unique individual who stands before them. If a particular woman challenges or contradicts any typical preference, a Stoic-minded approach encourages curiosity over judgment. Ask questions, understand her worldview, and tailor responses to that specific relationship's context. This flexibility stands in contrast to dogmatic attitudes that pigeonhole people into rigid categories. Additionally, acknowledging nuance helps men avoid fatalistic thinking. For instance, if a man does not fit the classic mold of high-earning or physically dominant masculinity, he might fear he has no place in a dating landscape that allegedly rewards only certain archetypes. Yet Stoic adaptability and the broader scope of emotional intelligence can compensate for many perceived shortcomings, facilitating connections through humor, creativity, empathy, or shared values. In truth, the interplay of each partner's unique traits often matters more than any singular factor like income height or social standing. Ultimately, the aim is not to undermine the individuality of women, but to recognize that certain patterns rooted in biology, culture, or psychological predispositions emerge consistently enough to be worth discussing. By understanding these frameworks, men can navigate romantic terrain with greater clarity, balance, and compassion. The best approach merges knowledge of common patterns with the awareness that every relationship remains distinct, requiring fine-tuned communication and open-mindedness to flourish. Up to this point, much of the discussion has focused on the foundational elements that create or amplify initial attraction and respect. However, true relationship success extends well beyond the early stages, demanding consistent effort, patience, and long-term compatibility. Men who fixate solely on short-term attraction, such as projecting raw confidence or achieving superficial success, risk neglecting the deeper emotional and ethical underpinnings needed for lasting fulfillment. Once the honeymoon period fades, real-life sets and challenges like cohabiting, financial planning, family illness, or child-rearing put the relationship's foundation to the test. A Stoic-aligned approach primes men to anticipate and weather these future hurdles. Rather than chasing fleeting wins, they invest in building stable internal resources, mental fortitude, emotional literacy, and ethical grounding. These internal resources become invaluable when unforeseen crises strike. For instance, if a partner faces a personal tragedy, a Stoic-minded man may display calm empathy, supporting her without becoming overwhelmed by anxiety. Similarly, if the couple encounters financial strain or job uncertainty, the Stoic discipline of focusing on actionable steps while accepting uncontrollable elements helps him remain a pillar of support rather than unraveling in panic. Moreover, emotional intelligence takes on greater significance as relationships mature. Over years or decades, individuals inevitably evolve. The personal growth path a man embarks upon, nurturing curiosity, kindness, and introspection, can keep the relationship vibrant. Instead of drifting apart due to silent resentments or unaddressed changes in priorities, both partners can actively adapt, renegotiating roles and boundaries as needed. This synergy ensures that the confidence, ambition, and resilience that once drew them together continues to serve as a backbone rather than a short-lived spectacle. Even the concept of hypergamy transforms over the long term. In stable, enduring partnerships, roles and income levels may shift multiple times. A woman might pursue higher education or advanced career milestones, eclipsing her partner's earnings for a season. When the underlying bond is strong-tempered by genuine respect, open dialogue, and a shared sense of purpose, these shifts do not automatically breed dissatisfaction. Instead, both parties collaborate to maintain emotional and financial stability, recognizing that a true partnership transcends static definitions of who is the higher provider. Ultimately, sustaining a relationship requires a balanced interplay of external and internal factors. While achievements, ambition, and initial attraction spark connection, it is the ongoing cultivation of empathy, self-awareness, Stoic composure, and respect that keeps the flame alive. By consistently applying the 9 realities with a long-term lens, men can avoid the trap of fleeting victories, building partnerships that are equally robust in the face of adversity and rich with shared celebration in moments of triumph. Given the scope and depth of these insights, many men wonder how to practically integrate them into daily life. One effective strategy is to adopt regular reflective practices. For example, writing in a journal each evening to recount moments of emotional stress or success. By identifying triggers and analyzing personal responses, a man can systematically refine his approach to conflict resolution or emotional engagement. Over weeks or months, these small reflections accumulate into significant behavioral change. Another practical exercise is the pause and breathe technique rooted in both Stoic traditions and contemporary mindfulness. When a potential argument or test arises, perhaps a partner criticizes a decision or expresses anger, commit to pausing before reacting. Take 1 or 2 deep measured breaths and silently ask, which response aligns with my values and the outcome I desire for our relationship? This brief interlude can diffuse emotional reactivity and lead to more measured, constructive responses. Over time, the pause becomes second nature, shifting men away from knee-jerk defensiveness or aggression. A further step involves intentionally practicing assertive communication. This could mean setting aside a weekly time slot where both partners discuss any brewing concerns in a calm, structured format. For instance, each person might list a positive observation about the week and one area that caused discomfort, followed by a collaborative solution-finding dialogue. By making assertive communication a habit, men reinforce boundaries and respect on a regular basis, rather than waiting for conflicts to erupt. Additionally, physical wellness often intertwines with emotional resilience. Regular exercise, adequate sleep, and a balanced diet can significantly improve mood regulation and stress handling traits that directly influence how men engage in relationships. A man who feels healthier and more energetic is less likely to snap during disagreements, more prepared to tackle adversity, and more open to connecting emotionally. Stoicism's emphasis on discipline complements these habits, underscoring the notion that self-care is not indulgent but foundational for both personal and relational vitality. Finally, men can prioritize continuous learning. Reading books on emotional intelligence, relationship psychology, or ancient and modern philosophy, attending workshops on effective communication, or even seeking therapy or counseling. Normalizing self-improvement as an ongoing process, rather than a one-time fix, ensures that these 9 realities remain active guidelines rather than stagnant rules. Much like physical training, emotional and relational competence thrives on consistent practice, thoughtful instruction, and willingness to adapt as new challenges arise. As we conclude this comprehensive look at the 9 harsh realities about women that men often discover, a unifying theme has crystallized. These realities, while at times challenging to confront, can act as powerful catalysts for transformation rather than sources of bitterness. They underscore the consistent thread that runs through human relationships: the quest for emotional security, respect, mutual growth, and shared purpose. Stoicism, when integrated with emotional intelligence and a sincere commitment to personal development, offers men a toolkit for navigating these dynamics with confidence, empathy, and integrity. Far from painting women as monolithic or men as eternal outsiders, these insights celebrate the complexity of human interaction. They illuminate why certain traits, strength, ambition, compassion, reliability, tend to resonate across time and culture. Equally, they reveal the pitfalls of ignoring boundaries, dismissing emotional needs, or clinging to cynicism. Indeed, the harshness of these realities often comes from confronting complacency or illusions. Yet once that initial discomfort is overcome, what remains is a clearer, more constructive path forward. By committing to balanced emotional expression, unwavering self-respect, meaningful ambition, and genuine understanding of a partner's perspective, men anchor themselves in a relationship dynamic that is both exhilarating and sustainable. With each passing year, the synergy of Stoic reflection, open communication, and personal integrity can deepen bonds, providing a sturdy bedrock for the unexpected twists of life. Men who tread this path do not just succeed romantically. They enrich their own characters, contributing to a broader legacy of compassion, responsibility, and virtue. In the end, the overarching message is hopeful. Even if modern culture proliferates messages that confuse traditional roles or demand ever-evolving forms of masculinity, there's a timeless thread: character, empathy, resilience that transcends fleeting trends. These 9 realities point toward the enduring truths of human connection. We all want to be valued, understood, and inspired. By recognizing and honoring these truths, both men and women can forge relationships that stand as testaments to the power of self-awareness, mutual respect, and the unwavering pursuit of shared growth. Navigating relationships can sometimes feel like walking a tightrope, but it doesn't have to. After exploring these essential insights, it's clear that true fulfillment lies in genuine self-awareness, mutual respect, and honest communication. Whether it's embracing emotional strength, respecting boundaries, or understanding the allure of authentic ambition, each of these lessons can enrich your journey toward more meaningful connections and lasting happiness. But what do you think? I'd love to hear your own experiences, opinions, or even disagreements in the comments below. After all, the richest insights often come from conversations among friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found value here, and remember, we're all in this journey together, learning and growing one relationship at a time.